To our continuing customer success webinar series. Today's session is entitled VMware Cloud Use Cases, What's New, and Lessons Learned. Ignore the slide title. These sessions are bi-weekly and available via Zoom invite as well as streamed live on twitch.tv. We also make them available after via Zoom recording and on YouTube. Alternating weeks will be a Twitch office hour session hosted by the customer success team discussing many aspects of our VMware Cloud offering. My name is Matt Vandenbeld, and I am your Customer Success Architect on the VMware Cloud Customer Success team. And on behalf of the VMware team, I would like to personally thank you for investing your time with us today. In today's session, we'll discuss some common use cases, architectures, and what we've seen from the field. The Customer Success team is on the front lines and have worked with many customers. We are here to make you all successful and want to impart our lessons learned. With that, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, who literally needs no introduction because today's speaker is me, so you'll have a heavy dose of vCloud Matt today. Before we start, I just want to remind all guests that they are muted. Please post the questions using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the Zoom window, and I will respond to you as soon as I can. It's kind of just me today, so hopefully I'll get around see everybody that comes over. So with that, let's get started. So what we're seeing today is a lot of enterprises want to increase their IT agility, right? So they want to develop any app to any cloud on any device. And this has been a VMware story for quite some time now. If anybody that's been to VMworlds and been paying attention, I think this story started 3 or 4 years ago, but we're really starting to deliver on that vision. So the application needs are driving cloud initiatives, right? So we have customers that are looking to modernize their data centers to deliver SaaS apps, which are becoming much more common. They want to extend to cloud. They want to also develop directly for cloud as well. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have had these initiatives driven down from your upper management, CIOs, CTOs that have these, we need to be in the cloud. And that can mean a lot of things to a lot of people, but we kind of separated into kind of these 4 buckets to assist you guys in how to actually deliver that vision for your executives. So what do we see is our customer-driven use cases, right? So we first see is a data center extension. So this is really very common. So, all customers have on-prem, and I think at this point, for the most part, we've recognized as an industry that the private data center or on-premises is not ever going to go away. There will always be some form of on-premises data center. Now, what people want is that ability to add on-demand capacity, to use test dev in the cloud, somewhere where they can rapidly scale up, scale down as the need becomes. We are also seeing data center replacement, which we'll cover a little bit more later in our kind of what we've seen in the field. And it's kind of what the major use case for VMware Cloud on AWS is looking at right now. The second most common is disaster recovery. Obviously, this makes a lot of sense to me and a lot of sense to businesses. We're seeing a lot of uptake in this area as, why maintain a second data center somewhere or colo with somebody else when you can just DR to cloud? And we're having a very good evolving story around our disaster recovery offerings on VMware Cloud, which we'll cover in a little bit more detail. So cloud migration. So again, we're seeing a lot of cloud applications moving to the cloud, either to being, cloud native, which is the next generation apps, or just replacing data centers, or, when infrastructure refresh comes up, as opposed to buying new hardware, moving stuff to the cloud. And some of that's application specific, meaning some apps play better in the cloud than perhaps other ones. And like I said, the last kind of category we have for a use case is the next generation apps. And one thing I kind of like to bring up to people, and we're good partners with AWS, but a lot of the business and executives think, and even some of the developers think that automatically AWS equals next generation apps, which is not really true. If you're running an EC2 VM, it's really not a next generation app. It's just a different virtual machine hosting it. And VMware has a really good evolving story around cloud native apps as well, which bears looking into. We won't cover it in great depth here, but there's a lot of materials out there, and you can always contact me and I can put you in contact with the right people. But there's a lot to that, particularly around Kubernetes. So the other thing that we're seeing now is when we had traditional silos and on-prem before, you know, you had your storage team, you had your network team, you had your compute team, and those have kind of evolved in some organizations to kind of become a virtualization team or at least have worked together. Now what we're seeing is the exact same thing occurring in the cloud. Now you have your VMware team, your AWS team, your Microsoft Azure team, and you know, Google Cloud as well could be in here. And as an IT organization, you really have a lack of visibility of all the stuff that's happening across all of these clouds. It gets really, really complex, and your risk exposure is greatly increased. It's kind of, like I said, the new silo. So a lot of what we do, and this isn't necessarily particular to VMware Cloud on AWS, but more of our VMware Cloud offerings as a whole, is to try to reduce this siloing again and at least give you a common ground of which you can have your visibility, operations, automation, security, and governance across any cloud out there. This is with products like Wavefront and our automation tools and VROps and all of these kinds of things too, and NSX, to help break down those silos across multiple clouds. So moving on, hopefully everybody is fairly familiar with this slide at this time. I don't think this has changed much since we kind of released the product a while ago. So this gives a really good overview in a very simplistic manner of what it is that VMware Cloud is. It's a really VMware's stack essentially installed on AWS hardware, where the advantages really come in is this links back to your customer data center as well as to any AWS services you have in the cloud. And we'll go into some detail about some of the services you can leverage from AWS while using VMware Cloud. As I mentioned before, we also have a large amount of cloud offerings, or cloud services we call it, that are helping to kind of level that playing field across clouds. So Cost Insight in the middle here is some product that we have now replaced with Cloud Health, a purchase we made right around the VMworld US time front. But we are really working on extending even more and more of these SaaS services to be able to consume from the cloud to your on-premises data center, to VMware Cloud, to Azure, to Google, to all of them. So it's really important to kind of think about how your IT team is approaching the new cloud world and the services we're bringing to bear to assist you with that. So where are we with VMware Cloud on AWS? So we have hit 5 global regions. We have 200 plus features. We have a 99.9% SLA for stretch clusters. You can get new SDDC kicked up in 2 hours. Average time to add a host is 12 minutes. Now, I'd like everybody to kind of think about that for a second and think about when you're adding capacity on premises. If you don't have hardware available, you know, this could be a month long or 2 month long or 3 month long or 6 month long endeavor to add a host. We can add one within 12 minutes. So that really adds an expandability story. We can also evacuate a host. The evacuation takes a little bit longer just because we need to get all of the vSend data off of it. And we have 39 seconds is our median chat response time. So hopefully everybody's aware, and maybe I can cover this a little bit more later, is now we've added a chat window in the bottom for support. So if you have an issue with any of our VMware Cloud on AWS stuff, or you just need a question asked, you can pop up with that chat and we will respond. Where the median is 39 seconds, which I think is absolutely incredible, with a 96% support satisfaction rate. This is really VMware coming to the table with the new cloud era. So before I go into a little bit of kind of what's new, it's important to kind of, give me my good old disclaimer. Feature status this document are subject to change. A lot of what I'm going to go over now is actually released. Or it's actually in the preview or available stage. As you can see here, we have feature classifications of planned, meaning we're just considering it and planning it for future development. Developed means we're actually coding on it. Preview means it's ready, but we're releasing it to specific customers to get feedback and make sure we got it right and hammer out all the bugs before we make it available, which means that everybody gets it. And there's a little caveat there that, may not be available in all AWS regions depending on the features available in that region. All of the roadmap stuff is available publicly on the cloud.vmware.com /vmc-aws/roadmap. Really go there. We don't keep anything secret we actually really didn't keep much secret before, but everything is on the roadmap that we're actively working on. You can keep checking back there and see, where planned data center releases are, where planned features are. It's really a great resource, but again, bear in mind our schedules. And we don't necessarily release everything. We release it when it's ready. Gone are the days where, vSphere 6 to 6.5 was a couple of years. We announced a certain date and stuff. So we have a quarterly release that updates our entire stack. So that's where we will upgrade versions of NSX or versions of ESX or any of those features. But in between what we call our milestone releases or our M releases, you may hear this come up often in a lot of our presentations, that in between those M releases, we are still constantly releasing stuff. So we are updating the portal very frequently. We are adding new features, fixing bugs, all those kind of things. So it is a constant evolution, it's a constant development. We have really taken the CI/CD to heart. So what is new? So this is new as of VMworld US and a little bit of VMworld Europe. So we've now added more geographies. So Sydney is out. Tokyo is out as well. We are working very hard on, I believe, Ohio is coming very shortly here, and others. So again, it's on the VMware site. We have a commitment to try to get into every AWS region by the end of the year, and really want to expand that global scale. One of the biggest features that people have been asking for and waiting for is the EBS back storage or elastic block store, which adds additional capacity to the hosts we have right now. So right now the hosts that we currently have are what we call an i3 metal, and actually we'll go into this a little bit detail more later, but it had all flash, all local storage and was limited to 10 terabytes raw. Now we've added elastic block store, which is the first version of it, which allows you to pick from anywhere from 15 to 35, I believe, 70 coming very shortly. It's still abstracted like vSAN, so it just looks like vSAN to you. It's slightly lower performing than the all flash, of course, that's local. But it actually really is a major request from our customers to be able to have more storage behind our hyperconverged hosts. And this is our way of delivering it, and we'll continue to expand on that. We have a 50% lower entry level price. I'm not in sales. Talk to your sales guy if you want any information about that deal. But we had some 3-for-2s going. There is some deals coming around our disaster recovery as well. So we're constantly kind of adding little perks and stuff here to help people to get in as easy as possible. Accelerated live migration of thousands of VMs. So HCX has some new functionality with NSX T that we just released. There is I think what we call it, vSphere replication assisted vMotion via HCX now. We are seeing a lot of big uptake in HCX to migrate to the cloud. We really do make it extremely easy for people to get into VMware Cloud. We are added a bunch of, so this is actually a very big feedback we had, is there's a lot of applications that are licensed by core count. I think we all know which ones we're talking about. So we have now added the method to reduce the amount of cores active in a host so that you can save some money on that. And we have now added the AWS Direct Connect support and microsegmentation security. We call it with advanced NSX. This is really our move to NSX T, which is not the default quite yet. Default is still NSXV. We're still kind of in preview mode with an NSXT. We're operating both right now, and we'll make the transition probably towards the NSXT world as time goes on. So again, I mentioned the regions we're in. So available today, you can see we have 5. Sydney, like I said, Tokyo is pretty much live now. US East, Ohio is going live very well. GovCloud US West is a very big request from a lot of customers. That's looking like the end of this year. Ireland and Northern California. And you can see as we keep going forward where we're going to be expanding to get everywhere in the world. Now, again, as I said before, all of these dates are subject to change. You'll always hear me say soon trademark if you ever kind of are in meetings with me or watch my presentations. these priorities could actually change a little bit depending on customer demand. So if you see something on here that you absolutely need to get onto VMware Cloud and you talk to your sales team, this is stuff that is flexible, we'll call it, so that we can address the needs as much. But this is what we've identified as kind of our ballpark for where we're going to go next. The other thing that we announced, and again, I'm not in sales, and people may have heard around this, is VMware vSphere Platinum, which is a new licensing tier, I guess you can call it, above Enterprise Plus or whatever have you. Again, I'm not anywhere near a licensing guy by any stretch. What that includes is VMware App Defense, which we've had some presentations on from a member of my team, Paige Clapper. If you're interested in learning more about App Defense, that's available via YouTube right now. We are going to do another App Defense. Actually, we're going to do a vSphere Platinum session with App Defense in another 2 weeks. So the next webinar is going to be on vSphere Platinum and VMware App Defense, where we can go a little bit more detail about what that means. Now, what it means to my team and what we do is that also includes credits towards VMware Cloud on AWS. So you can go ahead and try it a little bit and see how it fits your use cases. I do really recommend, if you're going to try it, go in with some actual valid criteria for success. Don't just kind of waste the credits and play around with it. I know that's fun to do, but we have a lot of hands-on labs and other facilities if you just want to play around with the interface and see what's available. If you're going to kind of spend the dollars or use up the credits, really go in with an idea of, I'm going to try this, and if we're successful, that means we can move forward with more services onto VMware Cloud. Now, I mentioned a little bit about HCX as well. Hopefully everybody's familiar with it. Again, we have quite a few sessions on HCX available on YouTube. We talk about this very often. This really is the best way to move from on-prem to the cloud. It has a very wide range of support for on-premises vCenter versions. I think it goes all the way back to at least 5, if not a little bit sooner. There are some caveats around VMware hardware versions and such, but it is really very accessible and can do a live migration. It can do cold migration. It does bulk migrations. It really does a lot of those cool features that used to take a lot of time. It does WAN optimization to save you time. So it is really the tool that we have. And now, as of our P1 M5 P1 release, so our milestone 5 patch 1 release, which hit a couple weeks ago, it is now fully functioning with NSX T and Direct Connect, so that you can leverage those services while doing your migrations. I know I'm also flying through this very quickly. If there's any questions, again, go ahead, make sure you just put it into the Q&A. Hopefully I'm just doing a good enough job that you guys don't have any questions, or I didn't put you to sleep. So another thing that we have added is stretch clusters. Now, I want to really put a big caveat on this, and we had Z House, a member of our team, we did a session on this a month ago maybe. So there is just a checkbox when you go to create an SDDC that says, would you like this to be a multi-AZ cluster? Which is really, really tempting to hit. But I really want people to kind of think about what happens when they check that box. So this is a great service if you have, I don't like calling them legacy apps, but traditional applications that kind of run on a server. They're not clusterable. They're not cloud nativeable, if that's a word, if not trademark. And it really gives the ability that if we, or actually not if Amazon drops an availability zone, it will HA restart in the other availability zone, which is really great to deliver application uptimes for applications that can't natively do their own availability. So in those use cases, it's absolutely fantastic. For just kind of general protection or DR, this is not DR, this is definitely an availability use case. Again, I really recommend, if you're looking at this feature, to watch the previous videos I did with Z around where this is really good, what the caveats are, and how it's used effectively. And it really is a good option, though. So the minimum host count is 6. There's a lot of all the vCenter options, but it's basically a cluster that stretches across 2 AZs. We host the witness ourselves, so that you don't have the split brain syndrome. But it can really protect you if you need those high availability apps or high availability on those traditional type applications. I mentioned this in great detail before, but going over it, so these are new R5 metal, has the Amazon EBS backed storage. It's from 15 to 35 terabytes and 5 terabytes increments now. This will be expanded. We will be adding more disk types. Right now, the volume gets presented to our host. We abstract it with vSAN. So with every host, you can have now 35 terabytes of storage, which really does answer a lot of those high capacity needs. The hosts themselves are actually a little bit bigger as well. They go up to 760 gigs of RAM, and they have more cores. So it's a little bit bigger of a host. There's a little bit more of a cost to it, but it really is kind of a nice addition to our fleet. We will be continuing to, like I said, expand on the EBS offerings, as well as expanding on the host types that you can choose from to deliver to build your SDDC upon. All that stuff will be coming in the future. So there's a question here. Is there any option to use third-party software-defined storage solution instead of VMware vSAN? So short answer, not currently. Long answer, yes. We are looking at offering other storage solutions from third parties. One of our partners right now, Faction, actually has a solution that has some network attached storage on it right now. Theirs is a little bit more particular to the DR use case, but that's available from them today. It is coming from us soon. And again, I'll put soon trademark. It is in our it is in development, when you remember our screen before. So we will be doing that in the future. When that'll be, I can't exactly say, but it is definitely coming. So moving along to the next one. So again, I mentioned the core counts. So this is great for some of those licensing things where you said you could turn off some cores. So what we have found with a lot of sizings and stuff for our customers is CPU and memory doesn't seem to be the problem, or not the problem. That doesn't seem to be the major consideration when sizing. Storage is particularly what it is. So to get the storage capacity, we need to add more hosts, and then we have an overabundance of CPU, which affects licensing. So we have now enabled people to create a custom cluster where we've turned off some cores, so you can save on that licensing cost. We have another question come in here about NSX T from Joel. So using NSX T, I'm unable to see BGP routes as they're added to the route table inside NSX by my various route-based VPN connections. I don't even see this on the roadmap. Using NSX T, I am unable to see. Maybe we'll come back to that question, Joel, if you don't mind. If not, I might direct you to one of our support people, because that should be there, and there's a lot of questions I have around your particular setup, so maybe we could take that one offline if that's okay, and we can discuss that in further detail. The other feature that we've just added is encryption. So, and this is a data at rest encryption, so this is kind of vSAN data store encryption. So when you kind of think about a lot of this stuff, we're actually kind of at this point almost triple encrypting things. So an EBS volume is encrypted on the AWS end, and so are the local SSD devices that go into the host. So those come with an encryption right into the hardware layer in the actual host themselves. Now we're adding vSAN data store encryption on top of it based upon an AWS KMS. We are looking at offering your own KMS. However, there is some stuff we're working out around that, because if your KMS becomes unavailable, it affects our ability to maintain the environment for you. So there's some intricacies we're working out. But right now you could use an AWS KMS to secure the vSAN data store. And then, like I said, then the disks underneath them are actually encrypted as well. And soon on the roadmap, we're doing the VM level encryption. So you can actually be pretty much encrypted. So the chances of somebody actually walking away with your data here somewhere is pretty much theoretically impossible. I'm sure there's a scenario where if you manage to pull the exact right disks in an EBS enclosure, and I don't even know what that looks like on the AWS end, but if you happen to pull all of that device and somehow break the key, and then break the KMS on top of it, theoretically, I suppose, mathematically, you could probably get the data, but it is relatively, in my opinion, impossible. So this helps with a lot of compliance things on the for PCI and all those kind of things, other compliances that are working hard toward in SOC. So we definitely have a much better encryption story as of this latest batch. So microsegmentation, this is a big ask. Obviously, this is one of the key features of NSX. It is only available in our NSX T offering of it. It is included for free right now. There is some talks, and currently there is going to be a premium to leverage this service going forward, something that's still in discussion. But this is no different than your NSX T or NSX V on-prem, except, like I said, in NSX V on VMware Cloud, we're not offering this. We're just pushing it towards the T side. And, gives you that microsegmentation. I don't think I need to go into much detail about it. You guys can ask a question if you really need to. But, it's your traditional microsegmentation. I can protect everything on the same network, east-west traffic. We also still have our north-south edge firewalls. So we really have a good security story there. We also have the policies in there. Really granular control, and we are working on the tagging stuff and with automation tools so that we can protect your workloads. One of the biggest things that we've come up with recently, we've had log intelligence for a while. So this is log insight in the cloud for people that are familiar with that on-premises product. So what we have added now is you get kind of free log insight with VMware Cloud on AWS. Now it's somewhat limited. It's a 7-day retention. You get some alerts on it. It'll help with root cause analysis. But we do have a 30-day free trial and an extended SaaS offering for those that want enhanced logging. So logging in the cloud for all of the for all of the services that you have in VMware Cloud that we support right now with NSX and vCenter. You get all of those services. It can integrate with VROps and all of those cool things so that you can really get a good picture of what's going on in the cloud. And for compliancy, some people need this. But like I said, we just actually offer a base level, and you can kind of see it, the little tag at the bottom here of log intelligence, free up to 1 gig of log ingestion a day with 7-day log retention with limited feature capacity. But that is available today as part of the add-in to VMware Cloud. So we just kind of threw that in for free. So if you're running VMware Cloud now, definitely check this out. And like I said, the free version is somewhat limited, but I highly recommend checking it out, and then maybe you'll see where it comes. The beauty of the log intelligence service is we look after all of your sizing and scaling and all the kind of stuff to get all the logs in. You just kind of pay us the monthly fee, and then the rest is our problem. Seamless hybrid management with VMware Cloud Gateway. So hopefully people have seen the series I did with Eric Huber. That was probably over a month ago where we went in depth about this. It's available on YouTube right now as well. We are really extending the feature set of VMware Cloud Gateway as well. It's definitely in our releases to add, more visibility if you have multiple SDDCs in VMware Cloud or multiple vCenters on premises, to try to get as much visibility in a single pane of glass. And I'm not a big fan of the single pane of glass adage, but it's really kind of the best way of looking at it. And I can't think of a better term really. So that's really what we do. And that uses hybrid link mode. So again, with the right circumstance, if you have a direct connect in a layer 2 span, you can do live vMotion via HLM, but it's really mostly just to kind of see that single, I hate saying it again, pane of glass to monitor all of your on-premises and your VMware Cloud resources. And that's essentially what it looks like. I forgot there's an animation on the slide, so you can actually see here you have an on-premises vCenter and your SDDC within VMware Cloud. So again, enhanced visibility. One of the other things that we're looking at is multi-factor authentication is already in, and AD integration, which is in preview mode, as you can see here with his identity federation. So we are adding a lot of features. And again, a lot of this is for compliance. A lot of this is for enhanced security so that you could have enhanced access, granular control. So we have another question here. Is it possible to see only one vCenter on Is it possible to see only one vCenter on-prem when I have ELM between more vCenters on-prem? So to answer that question, and hopefully I'm answering this correct, is if you have enhanced link mode on-prem, it's kind of a separate thing. So right now, currently, our hybrid link mode is a one-to-one relationship. So you will see the linked vCenter on-prem to the linked vCenter on SDDC, currently a one-to-one. We are working on enhancing that featurality so you can, I think I just made up a word, where you can be able to see more vCenters. But currently it is just a one-to-one right now. There's another question here. Is there an option to do chargeback per VM usage within VMC? I know VMware does offer VRB cloud services. How do we integrate this service with VMC? So out of VMware Cloud itself, no. So we don't do that from the VMware Cloud service. We just send you a monthly bill to which rolls up the AWS bandwidth charges and our host charges. However, there is something to do completely with the cloud services. This is something you could do yourself, but it's not like we will break up that bill for you, unfortunately. More questions here. Is there any plans to support SAML-based identity federation? Yes, there is. That is something that is definitely on the roadmap. I would check the roadmap page to see where that is right now. I believe it's in development, but it's definitely on our roadmap to offer SAML-based. And what's the difference between hybrid management and NSX Cloud? That's kind of a longer question to answer. So NSX Cloud is a service we have to extend networking constructs across multiple clouds. Hybrid management really takes in more than just the NSX part. It's, operations, vRops, Wavefront, Log Insight, all of those types of services. So they are really quite distinct ideas, I guess, or concepts to us. So I would think that there's a lot of resources out there for NSX Cloud. It is really kind of a point solution just to extend networks across clouds, whereas hybrid management is the overarching concept of managing across data centers in its totality. Hopefully that answers your question. So VMware Site Recovery Service, I talked about this a little bit. This is a very, very, very popular service we have right now. This is essentially SRM in the cloud. So what you do is you activate this service, you download an appliance, install it, an OVA, and install it on-prem, which is essentially SRM. And all of those features from SRM, not all of those features, a little bit caveat that. So we use vSphere replication for the replication pieces. We are looking at adding third-party replication pieces, Recover Point or, name it. Of course, probably EMCD at Dell might be more forward on the roadmap, but so we're looking at that. But other than that, this is really like SRM. You can have your priority orders, you could do your IP address changes, you can do groups, you can do bidirectional. We have just added fan in, so you could have multiple data centers you own as a private cloud to one VMware Cloud instance. So this can really assist on cost of DR. We are looking at adding A to B to C type support and other topologies. That's currently the one right now. We have just expanded this to 1,000 VMs protection per SDDC. It was 500. Depending on your SDDC version, that if you're currently using it, that might still be 500. And we're really expanding these use cases, and the beauty of it is you can run a relatively small SDDC just to back up all of the data to, and then expand on demand when you actually have a DR. So you can really make a cost-effective solution out of our site recovery service. I won't go too much into cloud assembly and service broken code stream. This is essentially VRA in the cloud delivered as a SaaS service. It's not completely feature compatible right now with VRA on premises, but they're working towards that kind of coming together. But it is really an easy way of delivering services to the cloud from our SaaS service. We have added Horizon 7 support, which is something a lot of people were looking at. So you can now deploy desktops into the cloud and have it kind of available across your on-premises end. And a lot of this is for disaster recovery or just to get closer to your user base or whatever have you. So this is really something that was asked for a lot of customers, and it's something that we're now delivering. So what does this actually look like? So some people getting into little architectures, and some people that haven't seen it, this slide was built for NSXV, but the concepts are actually pretty much the same. As opposed to having, actually this looks like an NSX T topology, because in the middle we have what we would call a tier 0 edge, and then we'd have two T1s beyond it. So really all you need to do to get this running is to set an allocated IP supernet for the compute network and your management network, configure the routing on your side so they're known to the SDDC, adjust your security policy on the CGW. You can set up content library, so this is something that comes available with hybrid link mode as well, and content library, so you can use it to sync your VMware templates to the cloud so that you can go ahead and create a logical network and then start deploying workloads from your content library. So this is just a very high level kind of view of what that topology looks like to be able to get your users to get directly to the cloud and start consuming things. For them, it looks no different. They're just acting as a service somewhere else. Now this is what it looks like from an architecture standpoint when you're using NSX T with HCX via Direct Connect. So this is a little bit of a busy slide, so I'm just going to kind of leave it up here and talk to it a little bit. This is the latest feature set that we have. Like I said, we have a tier 0 router. You probably can't see my mouse, but into the VMware SDDC box where we have the CGW and MGW, where we've kind of split that out. We have the DLR, so there is local routing within your VMware SDDC in your compute area, even when you kind of have stretched layer 2, so that you could actually have some local traffic. This is when you switch to the NSX T networking from the HCX. HCX also does its own layer 2 extension, which is used for migrations, which then is their own technology. It's not an NSX-based network, but it spans it to enable the migrations at the very end. All you need to do is then just essentially flip a port group for a VM to get onto the NSX T network and get all of the features from NSX T. As you can see, the actual Amazon Direct Connect terminates in the linked customer AWS account that is peered to our VMware SDDC. So we go over this in great detail in quite a few of our other sessions about how Direct Connect works in NSX T. Just the last webinar was NSX T with Z, which I thought was a great title. So if you really want some more in depth about how all of this functions, I highly recommend watching that. I just wanted to kind of have a brief overview of what the connectivity looks like, so that people have there is some complexity to it. Once it's set up, it's very transparent to your users. So we talked a little bit about some of the enhancements you can get with AWS. So one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is integration with S3. Great place to store backups and all types of other stuff, or even get things from S3. And so all that we really do is we have an Amazon peered account, so you can see that customer AWS account and our VMware Cloud on AWS SDDC. Those are peered together at SDDC creation. And what that gets you is that ENI connection you can see at the bottom there, which is an elastic network interface, which is a concept that we have, which is completely free. So all of the traffic going in and out of that connection is free. Now, while here it looks like it's going a separate direction, it's really actually going over that ENI. And that just connects through our CGW directly to the Amazon S3 endpoint. So you can actually see that that's how that works. So it goes over the ENI to the vSphere endpoint and then to the S3 completely free. We could also use Amazon EFS. Again, travels through the VPC endpoint to the ENI into our CGW and into your VMware's local logical network. So this is completely free. All the traffic, well, not completely free. So you will pay for the Amazon S3 services and EFS services, and that's something that Amazon will bill you for. But all of that traffic in and out of there is not billed, which is a really fantastic thing, especially if you're doing backups and putting a whole bunch of data over that link. A really fantastic feature. We're really seeing a lot of this. A lot of the backup products that are certified on VMware today use S3 as their target for storage. Another one that's had a lot of announcements lately around it too is RDS, which is Amazon's relational database service. I may have gotten that acronym wrong, but that's essentially what it is. So again, right out of your VPC in the CGW, and so this is in V and or T, it connects over the ENI, so you can rapidly consume that. We are adding support, and we announced as a VMworld that RDS is moving into our stack a little bit as well, so that you can have some of these services on-prem, and you can move it into VMC. Where are the advantages of moving it into VMC? That's probably a little bit subject for debate, but because we could just natively linked to the RDS over a very low latency, high bandwidth link that's without charge. So that's another big use case we're seeing from the Amazon side. So I talked a little bit about the backup and restore again. So this is one of these things that's a very, very low cost option. Not necessarily a great RPO, not necessarily a great RTO, but good enough for pretty much a lot of workloads out there. And essentially, all you do is you use the Amazon Storage Gateway appliance or any other partner appliance, Asterix, to essentially back up your vSphere, your SDDC into an Amazon Storage Gateway, which could go into a S3 bucket or a virtual type library. So what happens in the event of an actual failure is all you need to do is spin up. So this is actually simplifying on-premises backup to Amazon. So what you could do here is, again, they have Amazon Route 53 at the top, which is directing your customers to your apps and your OS in your data center. You're using it to back up Amazon services to back up to the S3 bucket. If you have a failure of your data center, all you do is you use Route 53 and Amazon service to redirect to a VMware SDDC that you just spun up that you can leverage those S3 buckets to recreate your virtual machines in the cloud. So this is a really kind of unique use case that leverages a bunch of AWS services, but you can have this pretty much on demand in the event of a DR and not have a lot of overhead or pay a lot of money up front to have this DR. Well, again, not the highest RTO and RPO, but can answer a lot of questions for a very low cost. So now to get to the meat of it, that I'm sure everybody's kind of been waiting for, and where I kind of want to spend most of my time, is what are we seeing now? So what have I actually seen in the field? So our number one use case so far, in my experience, is definitely a data center evacuation replacement. So we have a lot of customers that have come to us and said, I'm tired of hurricanes taking up my data center. I'm tired of having to go to management and ask for, more money, or explain why I had downtime, or all those kinds of things. And by far the easiest move to get out of a data center into kind of a managed service type thing is just to move it to VMware Cloud. It's the exact same stack. Permissions are a little bit lessened, but you can do everything you need to do in there. And, if it works on your on-premises right now, it's going to work in VMware Cloud, right? There's no refactoring or doing any of the things at an application level. It's just a migration. And these migrations can be done live, which is a fantastic thing, especially to sell to the businesses, is we're moving out of this data center, we're moving into the VMware Cloud, and obviously there'll be a little brief interruption of service as some of the networking gets updated, but we're talking seconds. When else could you have kind of done that before? Is it, so that's definitely the number one thing that we're seeing right now. The second, like I talked about, is disaster recovery. The features are coming fast and furious. We just added fan in. We just upped the number of VMs we can protect. We're looking at upping the number of VMs again. That is in testing right now, but we're looking at adding all of those different topologies. There's some deals coming around the disaster recovery service as well. It's something that's really to be developing fast, and you can really make a cost-effective solution. You saw the one that leveraged the Amazon services to do it, or you could just use our site recovery service and have a very small SDDC, a 3-node in the cloud with a bunch of VBS storage behind it that 35 terabytes per host. But when you actually have a DR event, again, you saw that mean time to add a host is 12 minutes. So you can quickly add up your resources in the event of a DR and spin up what you need to service your business. So we're definitely seeing a lot of that. So I mentioned the cloud native thing, and I talked about it a little bit before. Is VMware is really, we're getting it. We're becoming kind of the new VMware, and I put that in quotes because I kind of hate calling us the new VMware, but we're the same company. We're just we're continuing to adapt with the industry and really getting back to our roots in the development community. And I put in here again, and I mentioned before, is that just because you're in AWS doesn't mean you're cloud native now. It just means you're running your virtual machine somewhere else. So we're really adopting that. We've really done a lot of work in the Kubernetes realm. PKS is coming to VMware Cloud soon. You can run PKE now on it. You can run VMware integrated containers right now on VMware Cloud. So we're really adopting that cloud natives, and we really want people to think of VMware and VMware Cloud as offering a cloud native solution, and and maybe that you use Google Cloud or whatever have you, and that's fine, and we can offer those services on top to monitor all that. But this is really, I really want to emphasize that just because you're in the cloud doesn't mean you're cloud native. That's a little bit of a different nomenclature there. I put this in here because this is a use case that we're actually seeing a little bit of uptake on. This is hybrid becoming real, and I know we've all heard hybrid cloud for I don't know how long, probably at least 5 years. Hybrid cloud being available, but it's really it's really available now. So one of the use cases we had with one of my customers, and a couple of my customers actually, is the ability to expand in the cloud on demand. So when the business comes in and says, "Hey, we have a new project, and we need 20 hosts. We need them today." And if you didn't have that available, a lot of times you had to say no to the business, and all they did is they went and got a credit card and they went to AWS or Azure or whatever, and then you had these VMs that you have no idea where they are, that are now critical to your organization. So now, what you can do is you can actually scale up into a VMware SDDC on VMware Cloud, build that all up there, procure that hardware onto on-prem, and when that all comes in and you're already, and the nice thing is you can actually see a good look at the actual usage. So they said they needed 20, they only needed 10. We all know how that kind of works. That you could then, once you have this on your on-premises, you can actually migrate these live back to on-prem. So in the meantime, your business is doing everything that they wanted to do. You never said no to them. And you were able to answer that need, but then brought it back, and maybe you'll leave it in the cloud, maybe you'll migrate it late. Who knows? But you didn't say no to them, and you didn't end up with resources somewhere mysterious that you had to manage in the event of an outage. So now this is really, really becoming a good story for actual hybrid cloud and burstability. So this slide is a little bit old. So we are at a 96% CSAT. There must have been one angry guy at some point. Hopefully it wasn't any of you guys. I'm sure it wasn't. But customers love it. We are continuing to add our support options on there. There's a lot of work going on here around enhancing the chat support, getting more hours available, those kinds of things. But it is really a new VMware, where as opposed to kind of calling in the 888 number or opening an email or something, you just open a chat window when you talk to a guy live. They work on a partner team to us. We all report to the same management and customer success. So it is a customer success engineer you're talking to. And these guys have a lot of experience, can answer pretty much every question. If not, there's a big site recovery reliability engineering team behind an SRE team. So we've adopted kind of that methodology as well, where we can really answer on demand. And I wanted to put the Drake in here, a little former Canadian. I do live in Seattle now, but I had to do a shout out to my Canadian brother from Toronto, that our feature releases are literally nonstop. So it is really kind of something that is difficult for us on the customer success architecture team and some of the CSEs, that we're constantly learning. There's constantly features coming. It is constantly evolving. If the feature is not there today that you need, check back tomorrow, almost, right? I mean, not quite that fast, but it is literally, there are releases happening weekly, at least to the portal. There are major releases happening every quarter. So it is really the new kind of VMware CI/CD pipeline, where things just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And I see the question. I'm just going to get to it at the end, because I only have, I think, one more slide here, and then I'll get to some questions. So lessons learned. I thought that was kind of a little corny picture, but it kind of summarizes things in my mind. Is the only mistake in life is a lesson not learned. So, failure is good if you learn from it. We haven't had failures, but the number one lesson learned, and what we see all the time and time again, is plan your networks. So when you get into VMware Cloud and you're thinking about moving workloads and using our service, this is the number one thing that'll keep you out of trouble, is to go through thinking around, what's my management side going to look like, right? We recommend going big as you can. /20 is currently what we support. Yes, it's /20, right? This will enable your SDDC to grow to maximum size. Don't have an overlap in this range with your on-premises. Really think about this and really plan out how many SDDCs you're going to have and all of these management siders. And again, go big enough that you don't end up, painting yourself into a corner, because this is not something that is changeable afterwards. Once you've done this and you got it wrong, you're redeploying an SDDC, which can be a really, really big pain depending on how much you've moved into it. So this is where we really want people to think. Stretch or not to stretch. Are you going to stretch your layer 2 over or not? There are a lot of caveats that go into that. What's the latency between your data center and VMware Cloud? Do you need to stretch? The gateway, even though we have that DLR in there, during migration times and such, the gateway only exists in one place. So you will have some traffic hairpinning, again, depending on a lot of topologies. So it's worth the thought about whether or not you can, use new IP addresses or to stretch. Now, most of our customers we see stretch because that enables that really easy migration of moving an app from on-premises to the cloud. Because as we all know, and we've all been through migrations before, where you find buried IP addresses and in some script somewhere that breaks if you change IP. So I get it, but we really want people to think about how they're doing that, how they're doing it during the migration, and then what they're doing after the migration. So this is something, again, I think that is really, really key to think about. And we have a lot of videos, again, around the topologies and the technologies and stuff. But you can talk to us about this before you go in, and we can help you kind of put that picture together. Now, one of the concepts that Amazon has that we've seen utilized quite a bit is the concept of a transit VPC. So being able to talk from one VMware SDC to multiple AWS VPCs or multiple VMware SDCs, or you're going to use a direct connect. So there's a lot of different topologies that you can use to get the most out of both the AWS and VMware Cloud services. That requires a lot of thinking going in. And again, it's way better to do this going in than to think about it afterwards, because I've been on both ends of that. And it's definitely, I would prefer you guys to chat with us before you go and put in an architecture and move a bunch of services and then run into a problem. So this is definitely the number one thing to think about. Next is, it kind of goes in line, is to plan your SDDC. So one of the newest things that we have just come out with is some best practices, right? So it took us a little while to kind of come up with a best practice, as it were, right? You kind of have to do some testing and see how things are working in reality to formulate what works best. And definitely what we found is 16 is the best maximum cluster size. So that's why I put 16 as the new 32, because I kind of found it funny. It's a reverse, 40 is the new 30 kind of thing. So you can exceed 16. So that's a soft cap. However, we recommend when you're sizing your clusters to try to keep them to the 16 node. So you can have 10 clusters of 16 within an SDDC. So that's still 160 hosts, which is still pretty good. And you can have multiple SDDCs. So you could definitely accommodate a large amount of size. But this is what we would like everybody to kind of think about when they're sizing, that is size for 16 as a host. You can't mix T and V. So if you have an NSX SDDCs right now, you can't have NSX T and NSX V in the same SDDC. So that's just another SDDC that needs to be created as a feature flag on our side. So if you have V now, don't worry about this. Can't have T. It's just going to be a separate SDDC. Same with, you can't have a multi-AZ cluster and a regular cluster in the same SDDC right now either. So all these things are being worked on. So these are subject to change, but this is something, again, we just want you guys to think about when you're planning the SDC out, that if you want multi-AZ, that's kind of an SDDC in of its own, and how is that connectivity now going to look to your other SDDC, which kind of goes in line with the other recommendation is keep your layer 2 domains in the same SDDC. This is really highly advantageous to try to keep all of that. If you don't and you have it stretched out, you'll always kind of have a layer 2 span, and your traffic may be, there are some caveats and some concerns and a little bit of risk there. So if you could keep your L2 all in the same SDDC, and this has actually been some of the sizing we've done with some of our customers, is designed to keep the SDDC, all the L2s in the same SDDCs. That was actually the primary sizing, our primary requirement behind how we laid out our SDDCs. So again, so kind of how I would look at it was to first look at, if I need multi-AZ, how is that going to split my SDDCs? And then next I would look at keeping my L2 in the same SDDC. And then once I kind of figured that out, then I would use 16 host sizes cluster sizes to figure out how many clusters I needed within it. And like I said, you can expand. And then you would have to kind of do some math behind, do I want to use i3 for the highest speed and performance, or because of the L2 stuff, do I need to add some R5s for some capacity, which is all possible to do. But that's kind of the methodology we want people to think, and what we have found has worked best in the field. The other is plan your migrations. So really, again, HCX is great. The technology is easy, right? The technology is always the easy part. Now, there is some time to think about bandwidth and latency and how long things will take to replicate considerations from that. But really, the biggest thing is what to move and when, right? Generally, we recommend trying to move a network segment at a time to prevent traffic hairpinning and latency issues. So, that's kind of one of our ways. But there's a lot of different reasons why you would move specific apps before other apps. And we have great tools like Network Insight and VNRI on premise to look at what's talking to what. But this is where, after you've kind of done these other parts of planning out how it's going to look when you move it over, this is really the crux of it. And, I put need help in there because VMware has, our professional services organization has a great service around this, and a lot of our partners have great services around this too. Not to just be talking about VMware stuff, but a lot of our partners are really good at this and specialize in this, in fact, as well. But that is really to me, this is the most difficult part. We could do all the rest of this stuff relatively easily. We can sit down and have some some workshops, figure it all out. That's fine. But when it comes to your applications and what to move and when, that's only stuff that you guys could figure out, and with the help of other people. But that's really the crux. And the last note for lessons learned is back up your workload. So we make some statements around we back things up. But what we mean by we back things up is we back up our management stack. So we back up your vCenter, your NSX manager, if you have site recovery in there, all those kinds of things. The rest is on you, right? And we have a lot of certified backup partners, certified to run on VMware Cloud. It's on our compatibility list, our interoperability list, for partners that have solutions for it. Just because it's out there in the VMware Cloud doesn't mean that it's just now safe, right? Or that we're backing that up. We are guaranteeing availability to you, but if someone goes ahead and deletes a whole bunch of VMs, there's nothing that we can do to recover that for you. So that is something that I, as kind of a DR, an availability specialist in previous lives, can't emphasize enough to everybody is please, please, please back up your workloads. Don't think of a multi-AZ cluster as a backup. We have a lot of partners and a lot of great stuff around this. Please, please do this and save yourself a lot of grief. And I really wanted to go over too that this is not just VMware. There is a lot of partners we have in this space that we're working with. And like I said, when you go out and say you need help with all this kind of stuff, there is a lot of a lot of partners in here that can assist you with those kinds of things. And we're continually expanding our partner ecosystem on VMware Cloud, and it'll be forever expanding and expanding and expanding. So with that, I'll go to the questions now. Just wanted to leave this slide up here so you can go to the vmware.com/govmc-aws. You can hit me on Twitter at VMware Cloud or at vCloudMatt. I forgot my own name, or our VMware Cloud and AWS Twitter handle. We are working on setting up an email address for you guys that attend our webinars and our Twitch streams and on YouTube to be able to email our team with questions. So that's something we're working on. We're kind of coming up with an alias right now, but that's something that will be coming. So any questions, fire them in the chat. I have one right now. So consider another use case, CSP DC extension to the cloud, but to do so, you should allow VCD to admit vSphere on AWS's resource. Yes, so VCD, vCloud Director, is coming to be supported on VMware Cloud. I am an old vCloud Director guy, so trust me, I get the vCloud Director story. And I'm actually kind of excited to look at what that'll actually look at VMware Cloud. It might be what we initially intended with the VMware, our cloud offering before, but that's definitely something that we are looking at, and it should be coming, again, soon, trademark. And if there's not any more questions, again, I would like to thank everybody for coming out. We are going to have an office hours next week. Again, I'm always open for suggestions on what everybody would like to see in the future. I believe the next webinar is going to be 2 weeks from today. It's going to be at 6 p.m. PST, and we're going to be going over vSphere Platinum with App Defense. After that, we're going to have some topology discussion and SDDC design considerations with Aiden. We're also looking at getting some partners to hopefully do some presentations. But again, I'd like to thank everybody very much for coming out, and hopefully this was of value for you, and let me know if, give me some feedback if good or bad. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out, and I wish everybody has a good day. Thank you very much.